Hi, Butch Peel with Jersey Jack Pinball again. Today we're going to talk about the underside of the Wizard of Oz Playfield. So I've got a game here with the playfield put up against the back box so that we can see all the inner workings. It's powered up, it's running, and I've also got a playfield on the side over here set up on a rotisserie device, more of a player's type perspective. Now keep in mind as we go back and forth between these two that this is messing up our perspective by putting this playfield up like this. This is the bottom of the playfield, this is the top of the playfield, because it's from the player's perspective while they're playing, right? Same thing here, bottom of the playfield, top of the playfield. So things are going to get a little bit twisted as we go back and forth, but hang with me, I think we can get through this. So first thing you notice is all the blinking lights and the flashing, the beautiful lights. That's RGB LEDs. So every single one of these green boards here, some of them very small, some of them very large, have RGB LEDs on them. And where they go on the playfield surface, they're behind every one of these clear inserts. So every one of those has its own RGB LED right behind it so that we can make that insert, that 2 right there, whatever color we want it to be during gameplay. And we can blink it on and off, and we can control its intensity, all those other things. So remember that all these boards now are RGB LED system, that's lighting. Next thing you notice, a bunch of metal pieces here holding a bunch of these big drum looking things. These are solenoids, coils, we call them. So these coils now, you think they're the power in the game. They're what's going to smack that silver ball around the playfield. So we need a lot of strength. They're going to kick like crazy. So think coils, you think kick. So when the coil kicks under here, it creates a magnetic field. It pulls these plungers inside the coil. And this motion here under the playfield turns into this motion over here above the playfield. Another example of that, if you look at the flippers, the flipper mechanisms, they're a great big coil because they got to be strong to knock that ball around the playfield. Now we're going to suck this plunger inside the coil like that. That motion under the playfield relates to this above the playfield. So that's how the flippers are kicked. Next thing you notice, there's a bunch of big round things under here. These are magnets. The magnets here, these two are right in front of the which they're completely covered here, but they can create all that movement because they're right below the playfield surface and pull the ball around. You also notice a couple of big magnets here with giant screws through the center of them. These actually protrude through the playfield so they can grab the ball and hold it. And if you look over here on the playfield, you see this is a magnet here that grabs the ball when it falls out of the Munchkinland playfield, and there's also at the very top of the playfield, the magnet that grabs the ball when you're going to bring the monkey down to pick it up. So that's these magnets here, these giant magnets with the big old screw and bolt in them. Lastly, you notice there's some other things that look kind of strange here. These are motors. So this is a 12-volt motor that moves the witch up and down. She goes up out of the playfield, she comes back down. It's just going to turn, this motor turns and pulls that screw and brings her up and down. This motor here spins the house on the Munchkinland playfield. So this big hole here goes up to the Munchkinland playfield and spins this house around and around and around. So that's what this motor right here does under the playfield. Another really important component underneath the playfield is a switch. And that tells us where the ball is. It tells us when we hit something that we're aiming at. So if you look underneath here, you see a bunch of different types of switches. One type here is a micro switch. These micro switches have a loop on them that goes up through the playfield, and then when the ball rolls over that loop, it makes a micro switch switch over here. Now I can show you on the main playfield. If you come over here, that switch is right here on the main playfield. So the ball comes down and goes in this in lane here. That's what's happening underneath the playfield. Is all that's happening is this little micro switch is being closed. So next type of switches will be a target switch. These target switches actually protrude through the playfield. They go up through the playfield surface. So what you see on the ball targets here, that's what you're seeing over on this portion under the playfield. So these switches close, and they are a leaf switch. They have 2 metal contacts. When the ball hits the target in front, it forces the contacts together, and that makes the switch. And so we know you've hit a ball target. Another really important kind of switch is the rollover switch. So we use those extensively in the Jersey Jack pinball games. One of them is the character rollovers in this game. So you notice the metal contacts are there again, very similar to the way the target switch works, but horizontal instead of vertical. So when the ball rolls over it, it makes the contact. Back on the playfield surface, this is what these look like. The Scarecrow, the Lion, the Tin Man, and the Toto switches over here in the right out lane. Lastly, on switches, we have Optos. Optos is a very special kind of switch. It's an infrared optical switch. So it transmits infrared light on one side, it receives it on the other side. And when something moves between those and breaks that beam, it knows that the ball just passed through there. And so that's another way with no moving parts to tell when a ball has moved over an area. An excellent example of that comes on the exit from the Castle Playfield up here. On the wire ramp, we have mounted an opto pair, a transmitter, a receiver. And when the ball falls off of here and breaks that beam, that tells the game that the ball just left the Castle Playfield. And that's the way it knows how to turn off all the music and that sort of stuff. And just keep in mind, as I've gone through this now, I'm trying to keep it at a very high level because we want to look at this stuff in a lot more detail later on in this video series. We're going to have special videos just for looking at coils, just for looking at switches. But at this point, we just need to kind of get you used to that terminology, and then we're going to teach you how to fix and find problems with these and get your game working like it should be.